thing I wanted to stress was something I've been told constantly, and it took me about 12 years to actually listen to people and figure out they're kind of right. People such as Nathan Moody, Robin Scanner, good friend of mine, telling me to slow down. Slow down, audiences don't need as much as you think, let ideas develop, let sound develop, and let people listen. Now of course, swift changes can be great, certain styles of music, a hard abrupt change is exactly what's appropriate, but with a lot of ambient modular, soft, smooth moves, I find, tend to be what works the best. Simple little particles of noise. Some modulation on braids. In a really keep it simple, stupid kind of way, which plays to my mind, it's kind of like a West Coast influence patch. I've heard some great surge patches with tons of cables, and the output's quite similar. So really making the most of something very basic, just to create some movement and some sound. I want to stress it's not that important what all these exact modules are. The idea is the effects chain where there's a looper in the middle. I think it's way more important than which looper you choose to use. Having whichever delay and reverb, pre and post looping and filtering, completely up to you. I love stepped random, and I think we should all just surrender to its goodness. And give up most ideas of doing any real sequencing. Of course I'm joking. Sequencing and intentional pitch sequence and patterns are an amazing thing, but in this kind of setup, I'm more than happy letting a Turing machine freely run and control the 2 HP bell. One thing you do need to do with random though, is wrestle the thing, at least for me, wrestle the thing into some kind of musicality. And start to fill out just a basic natural minor scale, which if anyone's curious, that's going to be C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat and E flat. That's just a loop.
You could say 2 modules minimal, you could say this is super not minimal, or you could be like, dang, that is the smallest rack I've ever seen. So I think that's part of the beauty of modular, is it's not tied down to one thing. It is essentially like an adult Lego. The box that everything is held in is all up to the same specs. Everything in the box is basically powered by the same power. They can interact with each other with cables, and you have the ability to make yourself an instrument, essentially. Each one of these modules is a separate thing. Module in a nutshell for you. I really like this sequence, and I could add to it. We could make it a whole lot more complex, but this is when I like to kind of take a breath and look at what's actually happening in the moment instead of kind of looking at where I could go. And before I even add another module, I just like to see all the possibilities I have with just the 3 modules I'm using right now. Personally, I like to look at modular and composing on modular as composing a song from the center, almost as if there's no linear aspect to it. You're making a song from the middle, the start, and the end all at the same time. And having this idea in mind kind of helps me not get super into the aspects of performing, especially when you're in a recording setting. Specifically for composition and film, it's kind of really cool to have this cycling, really simple sequence and be watching a film or scoring a piece of music or making a piece of music for yourself and get rid of the boundaries of, okay, this is the start, so like I want to move to this. It's more like, okay, for me, it's I'm enjoying this part of it, and I know that I can go in this direction and this direction at the same time, or I can go in a totally new direction. And it's kind of more of a feeling-based thing. And sometimes, this, as you can see, I could just walk away and have this play into the end of electricity in our planet. So we'll listen to it again. And a lot of composing in a minimalistic sense for me, especially with modulars, is listening to what I have and just taking a breath. I think it's really easy to get excited and just be like, alright, let's keep going, let's patch, let's really get into it. And there's something about, especially with ambient music, really feeling the ambience and like, okay, how is this making me feel? How am I feeling like I want to take this? Where do I want to take this? And really getting into more of the emotional depth of it and away from this very, very weird instrument that almost is emotionless until you kind of can add this part of it from yourself into it. Minimalism in modular is kind of a funny thing because in of itself it's not a minimal way of playing music. It is very layered. But again, it's this mindset of like, okay, I'm gonna limit myself. I'm gonna only use 4 notes here, or I'm gonna only use these modules, and every time I use a module, I'm gonna listen to exactly what this module does before I add in something else and get confused by that other thing and overwhelmed by this other thing. And my learning of modular was over many years because I had no money and I would buy like one module every 4 months and pretty much learn everything there was about that single module because I had no other ones. And I think that's a really great technique even if you're composing with a 12U rack. It's just, okay, I just plugged in rings. With this sequence and maybe the other 1 or 2 or 8 or 20 other modules I'm using, how does it interact? And this idea of interaction between modules in any ecosystem. And really listening to that and really taking it slow and kind of thinking about, okay, how can I patch in a way that's not gonna confuse me? Because even at this point, I'm like, all right, I have to go, if I want to find out like how I'm modulating and stuff, it's like a lot of following cables and like, all right, this is here, yeah, I did that, it's been long enough, and like, I don't really, it's not all in my head at the same time. And having not many patch gives, not many modules kind of keeps that up there. And so I think it's, for me, when composing on a modular system, it is always super overwhelming, and doing things like slowing down or limiting myself is a very, very useful thing in a sense. Austin.
Can I have your autograph? Get out.
So you'll have to pay me some money for that. Or we could do a cool little tradesies, you know.
Okay.
I use your rack, you use mine.
Cool.
Alright. Yeah.
I'm down.